Are we ready?
You're ready.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm Julia Sapphire Child.
I'm Jennifer Impact Red.
And this is the Drop Stitches Podcast, episode 3. Let's see. Today, let's start with our news, which is we have a Ravelry group, which I just started today.
No, we can't start yet. Cheers.
Oh, my bad. I didn't know we had a protocol. Crap. Well, anyway.
Now I'm ready.
Now can I proceed?
Yes.
We have a Ravelry group. And it's called Drop Stitches Podcast. It's very creative in terms of the name. So look us up, join the group. We'd love to have you. Tell us about what you're drinking and what you're crafting. So, the wine for today.
This is a Pinot Noir from Frey Vineyards. And Frey Vineyards is a family-owned and operated, actually they're into their 3rd generation, organic winery. And I guess farm and winery. They do sustainable wines and they do biodynamic farming, and they are located in the slopes of Redwood Valley in Mendocino County, California, and at the headwaters of the Russian River. Their vineyards are like I said, they're all organic, and they started in the 1960s. All of their wines are made with no added sulfites, only naturally occurring sulfites. And if you know, sulfites are a synthetic additive, and they're not allowed in any organic wine or any certified organic food. Their wines usually range from, they said, 0 parts per million to 5 parts per million. And they said most of them measure 0 parts per million when they measure them.
And that's the naturally occurring sulfites.
Yeah, that's the naturally occurring sulfites. And what I looked on they have like freyvineyards.com website, which I looked at that and read a little bit about their wines. And some of the cool things I thought about their wines was they have half of their energy is from the sun. And as a biodynamic farm, they have cows, and their cows, it sounded like their cows kind of roam freely throughout the vineyard. And so they get the naturally occurring, I guess,
manure magic.
Manure magic. I know they said nitrogen-laden compost to the soil, so I'm sure that's part of it. And one other thing they said was in 2004, the citizens of the Mendocino, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, County, California.
That's close enough.
Yeah. Passed the first U.S. county ban on the propagation of genetically modified plants. That doesn't sound right. I don't think I copied that right. But they use a certain type of grape, and I can't remember which one it is. But they banned the genetically modified version of that, I guess, from the whole county. So they don't use that at all.
That's interesting. I didn't know there were any genetically modified grapes.
Yeah, and it was on their website, so I may have read that wrong, but they said they banned a county ban on genetically modified. Yeah, GMOs. So I thought that was really interesting. And like I said, this is the wine that we're drinking, and as you see, it's quite good.
We've been through 2/3 of the bottle already, and we didn't even really realize it.
No, we didn't.
Of course, we still do have full glasses, so yeah. I mean, I'm not fully through 2/3, but still.
Yeah. So now we can rate our wine, I think.
Yeah.
So when I first tasted it, I said it's very light.
Yeah,
and
but we had just eaten something spicy.
Yeah, we did eat something spicy.
So it was, take-home messages does not go with spicy. You won't taste it.
Yeah, it was almost, and that's one. I drank through 1 glass of it with my spicy food.
Like it was juice.
Yeah, because it was just it was just such a light wine, and
It is, but don't misunderstand. It is a nice wine. It's a
good.
nice, especially a nice table wine, like most Pinot Noir is. But even for a Pinot Noir, I would agree that it is very light, and therefore it is very easy drinking because it is very light, and it's not harsh on the palate at all, and has that slight fruity aroma, which it makes it get along with a lot of things as long as it's not a very strongly flavored thing, like something spicy, or probably wouldn't go great with a giant steak or something like that.
Oh.
But most other things it'll be fine.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, and it has a beautiful color.
Yes, it does.
I love the color of red wines in general. So.
And I also purchased this one, which is the Sauvignon Blanc.
Sauvignon.
I'm just going to let you pronounce it. What is it called?
Sauvignon.
And I haven't tasted it yet, but I'm excited to taste that. Since my sister has introduced me to the Pinot Noir, which I think I said in another podcast, I've been drinking those, and I've actually pretty much stopped drinking the sweet wines, like the Rieslings and the, can't think of it now, but
Gewürztraminer,
I guess, whatever. Any of the sweet wines. And every time I've even bought a few, and I just don't, I look at them on the shelf and I'm like, I really don't want that. I want something else.
Not doing it for you anymore.
And it's not. And it's really odd how my tastes have changed in wine since I started drinking the Pinot Noir. So anyway, so I don't know if I'll be like tasting the sweet wine so we can review them here. I'll try to, but they just don't.
Sweet wines really don't do it for me. I'm not a sugar person.
No, they just don't do it for me anymore either.
Someone gave me a taste of a sweet wine recently, and I had trouble swallowing the first sip. It was so sugary. I couldn't stand it. I thought it might as well be fruit punch.
Although I will say, I do know if they still make it. I do know a winery. It's a Virginia winery, and I'm from Virginia, so I try to get a lot of Virginia wineries. And this one is so sweet. I haven't had it in at least a few years, but it's the Horton Winery, and I think it's on the eastern side of Virginia, but I could be wrong. Anyway, it's called the Horton Winery. I think it's called Eclipse. I think is the one that I tried, and it was the sweetest wine I have ever had. So if you like the really sweet wines, you should probably look that one up and try and find it. It is, like I said, it's the sweetest wine I've ever had.
There's a winery in Maryland that's kind of like everything they produce is sweet, and a lot of it's fruit wines. They're not really wines because they're made out of fruit, not grapes. Is it Ligonier? That's the one you see at the Maryland Renaissance Festival all the time. If you've ever been to that,
I haven't been to that in a while.
It's all of it's sweet, sugary sweet kind of sweets. Before we move on, I wanted to make a note about sulfites because we were reading about this before we started. So if you don't know, it's a concern because some people do have an allergy to it. But getting a headache after you drink wine does not necessarily mean you're allergic to sulfites. Second, when you're looking for sulfite-free wines, there aren't a lot out there. And that's partly because sulfites are added as a preservative. So wines can oxidize over time, especially if they're not stored very well. So if you buy a wine that is sulfite free, you need to be aware of that sulfite does offer a preservative effect. So if you're going to get a sulfite free wine, you need to make sure you don't leave it in your hot car all day, because it will oxidize and it will taste like vinegar when you open it. So try to keep them on the cool side as much as you can. And if you have an unheated basement like I do, sweet. If not, just don't keep it around forever because it's not going to have the same kind of shelf life as a wine that does have sulfites. And like we mentioned in the last podcast, if a thing is marked as certified USDA organic, like this one is, I don't know if you can see that little mark there, to have that certification, the wines have to be obviously the grapes have to be grown organically, but they also cannot add sulfites. So that's another indicator you can look for. But usually if there's no sulfites added, it says so somewhere on the bottle because that's a big selling point. But if sulfites aren't necessarily a concern for you and you're just looking for organic, you can buy wines that will say made with organically grown grapes that don't have this label, and you're still essentially buying an organic wine. It just has added sulfites as a preservative. We also read that the amount of sulfites used in wines is generally kept as low as possible, and it's lower than most dried fruit. So if you eat dried fruit and you don't have a problem with sulfites, sulfite in wine is not going to be a problem for you. If you're getting headaches, it's for another reason. I'm going to put on the blog a link about that subject, so you can read a little bit more about those things. Anyway, so we're terribly alcoholic today. So we're also going to tell you about some of our favorite gluten-free beers. Yeah. So I don't know if we've mentioned before, but we are both gluten-free because we have celiac. So this is a serious health concern for us. This is not some kind of fad diet. If you've ever looked for gluten-free beer before, you were quite aware. Awful, like, tastes like.
Really, the worst. There's only one that's awful. Like I will never drink it again.
New Grist. Oh, excuse me.
No, I will drink that again, but very rarely.
No.
Yes, I will. Redbridge.
I am scandalized.
Redbridge is the only one I will not drink, and that is
that's pretty horrible.
It's like drinking. Well, never mind. I'm not even gonna say that.
Say it.
No.
Say it.
It's like drinking Budweiser. If you're not gluten-free. Now, I know some people like Budweiser. I could never stand Budweiser.
I couldn't either. I never drank beer in college because everybody was always drinking the nastiest stuff on the planet.
That's because it's cheap.
So I never drank any. It wasn't until later that I started drinking beer, and I was introduced to Guinness.
That was my favorite.
And I liked Guinness. And I liked Harp, which is like Guinness Junior. It's like a lighter version of Guinness. It still has that rich flavor. And it doesn't taste like a lab experiment.
Oh my gosh, Guinness is and if you're not gluten-free, Guinness is the best beer for making beer bread. Don't use that cheap stuff.
I imagine so.
Use the Guinness. I have made beer bread with Guinness before I was gluten-free, and it was just...
Also heard tell of a Guinness float. Ice cream and Guinness. I've never had one.
No.
Of course, we're gluten-free now, so we can't have that. But
we could try
we have finally located, in the center, there we go, located some good gluten-free beers.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a review for that guy right there.
I did, and so my sister, Julie, gave me this beer.
Nice to meet you.
As a present, right? As a gift. And so I went home and I cooled it all off and stuck it I think I even stuck it in the freezer for a little bit because I like mine really, really cold. And then I sat down and I drank the beer and wrote a little review. And so I forgot actually to bring my written review, so I would just... I know, I'm so bad.
Sorry.
So I will just write down, and it was only a couple sentences anyway, so not a big deal. So I started drinking the beer, and the first thing I tasted was like a little minty taste. So I tasted a little minty taste, and then I wrote in my journal that may be because I just brushed my teeth too, but I wasn't really sure. So I thought
we are a classy establishment. Just so you know, we do brush our teeth.
That's right. And so I kept on drinking, and I thought, well, after a few drinks, that it was, the toothpaste kind of thing, it will go away. But it didn't really go away, and it still had that, like, light kind of minty taste to me.
Oh, we should actually say the name.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
This is St. Peter's sorghum beer. It's made out of sorghum. This is a grain, grassy type grain, if you're not familiar with it. And it is gluten-free, no wheat or barley, and it is made in
France, right?
Bungay, Suffolk, UK.
UK,
right there. See? On the label.
Are you
sure? It says so on the back. That's what it says. product of the United Kingdom.
Okay, well then I looked it up on the internet.
stpetersbrewery.co.uk. I will put a link on the blog.
I thought it was France. Oh, wow.
And I got this in at Spin the Bottle in Frederick, Maryland. I don't know how many other places carry it. That's the first time I'd seen it. And it also comes in an awesome green bottle. All right, go ahead.
So after that, then when I was drinking it, it's kind of a light beer, because it is a light beer. But then its aftertaste was kind of, to me, I didn't know how to describe it, but I said it had the aftertaste of a darker beer. And of course, I haven't had a non-gluten-free beer since 2010, so it's been 3 years.
Yeah, that kind of makes it hard to draw concrete conclusions.
Right, but that's the way it tasted to me. And then I went and I turned the back of the bottle over. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to read what they say on the back of the bottle, which says, a clean, crisp beer with a Pilsner-style lager finish and aromas of citrus and mandarin from American Amarillo hops. And so I read that. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't too far off. So I was really excited. So then I did go out and I looked it up on the internet. And don't ask me where I got the France from. I don't know. But I did read a little bit about the beer. And I don't think they make a whole lot of it. Or maybe they make it once a year or something. I could be wrong. Anyway, just forget that. But the bottle itself was really interesting because I think this is the coolest bottle. So I kept it. And and on the internet, they said, on the website, they said that this bottle was fashioned after the bottle, I guess the original St. Peter's beer back in who knows what year that was. Yeah, so cool. This is a replica of the original bottle, which is why it's kind of, see, it's skinnier this way and wider, so it's a really neat shape. And
yeah, I haven't really seen beer in a bottle like that.
No, it is really, really neat. So I thought that was really interesting.
How much is in it? It's a pint.
1 pint, yeah. Actually, it's a 1 pint and 9 fluid ounces, so it's a little bit larger than a pint.
0.9 fluid ounces.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought this was really very tasty, and I really liked it. And so that's one of my favorite beers. Now, Julia will talk about the other one, which is also one of my favorite beers.
Well, we both like this one.
Yes.
So this is Green's Double Dark Ale. They also call it the Endeavour Ale. And this is made in Belgium. And it's made of millet, buckwheat, rice, sorghum, hops, and yeast. And if you're not familiar with it, buckwheat has no relationship whatsoever to wheat. It's not even in the grass family. So, when I first came across this beer, I was super excited because I had tried other gluten-free beers and I thought they were horrible because they were all made with sorghum and they're all light. And, this one's a little bit more rich than a typical sorghum beer, but usually they're really thin and wimpy. And, I would probably have said something a lot more crass in terms of their flavor than what you did. But I kept thinking, buckwheat is a really rich grain. And if you've ever had buckwheat honey, you know how dark and rich buckwheat honey is. It's almost like molasses. Not quite, but it's real dark like that, and it has a lot of very complex flavor. And I thought, well, that was probably the ticket for making a good gluten-free beer. And then I saw this, and I thought, well, I have to try that. Plus, it's a dark ale. This company does also make a blonde and an amber. I've tried all three, and I didn't like the blonde, but I think the trend here is that I don't like light beers. The amber was okay. I've heard it described as being like a Yuengling. And this Double Dark is what I remember Harp being like. So like a less chewy version of Guinness, if you will. So it's rich, it's dark, it's wonderful. It's great with all kinds of things. I don't know if I said, but this comes from Belgium. It is the same size bottle as this. It's half a liter. And a couple of places in Frederick, Maryland sell this. I don't know how common it is in other places, but I had to look for it to find places that sell it, and one of the places that sell it is Spin the Bottle Wine Company, which I've mentioned a couple of times last episode and this time, and they only sell it because I asked them to.
Wegmans sells it.
Wegmans in Virginia,
And
in
well, in
Maryland, of
Fredericksburg.
course, they don't. In Maryland, they don't sell beer and wine in the stores, but
Yeah,
in Virginia they do.
The Wegmans carries it. I don't know. I don't know how many listeners are in Richmond, but if you're in the Richmond area, I would say Trader Joe's might carry it, and
Good call.
Whole Foods might carry it because they have a good selection.
Yeah,
they have a good selection of stuff. So
anyway,
but I haven't looked.
So
I
would
up
say
here and get it in Fredericksburg.
If you're looking for a good gluten-free beer, this is it. This really is it.
That's the best one. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
and I have not seen this anywhere in the stores that I've looked in. So
he said that he got it from his distributor because he asked them, like his partner is also gluten-free, and she was looking for, gluten-free beers that you can actually drink.
mm-hmm.
And the distributor said this was the best one, so that's what they got it. And then I told him, this is the best one.
We got that one.
So
out
now
too.
they carry both.
Well, that's good because there's so many more people that are drinking or eating gluten free, and
Yeah.
some of them I know do it just to do it, and some of them do it because they have to do it.
Yeah.
And so any kind of variety is good, and it's just like I go to Capital Ale House, and I don't know if any of you all are familiar with that, but they offer the widest selection of gluten free, and the only thing on their menu was Redbridge. I'm like, I don't drink Redbridge.
Oh, of all things.
So now I haven't been there in probably a year and a half or something, just because of that. Because I'm like, why should I go there? I can't even eat the carrot cake anymore, which is why we went. And then they don't even serve good gluten-free beer, so no point in going. Sad, very sad.
Okay, moving on. All right, so getting into finished objects. Sorry, we've got our computers on the table here, so if you see me staring off camera, that's why. They're shiny things, and it's very distracting. All right, so I'm going to start with my knitted finished objects. I've been pretty lazy this month, I would say, especially considering it's actually been 6 weeks. But I have here the New City hat, which is a pattern by Melissa Labar. It's a very simple knits and garter stitch kind of pattern, making something like a basket weave pattern. But so it's not real complex, and I thought it would be a great fit for a multicolored. Let's see if we can. We need to have spotlight on the table, I think.
Yeah.
We are still recording at our mother's house, but we're recording in a different place. And I think we have better lighting, but we're really far away from the camera. Anyway, so this is, the yarn is Becoming Art Celio, and it's a worsted. Anyway, so, and it takes less than a skein. It's a happy little hat. I'm just going to shove it on my head. I was a little bit concerned about it, because when I finished knitting it, it was really tight, and I hate a tight hat. I seriously hate a tight hat on my head. But after I washed it, it did relax quite a bit, so I think it's okay.
It's cute. I like the pattern.
So
a lot.
A nice, easy knit. It was fun. I don't know. Lately, I've been all about the easy win, I think. And then I have a Shaylin, which is a pattern by Lelia Robb, I believe, in Knit Picks Andean Treasure colorway Aurora, and this is their sport weight alpaca yarn. And I do enjoy knitting a shawl in alpaca because it's so languid after it's been washed and blocked, and it holds a block really well because it's just relaxed.
Oh, it's really soft. It has the look of a scratchy wool.
It does,
but
because
it's not.
The alpaca that they use, I think, has got some hair in it.
Yeah.
And it's not de-haired, so the little hairs are sticking out all over the yarn, so it looks a little bit. but it is actually a soft yarn, and
Very
like
nice.
most Knit Picks yarns, it's very reasonably priced. So
Beautiful
very
color.
attainable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it did block out quite well. And now that it's relaxed a little bit, you can see little garter stitch ridges in it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you might not be able to, but if you squint and look at some pictures on Ravelry, you'll be able to see a little better.
Yeah.
But it has a little bit of lace. Anyway, so again, it was a nice, easy win. And I might have knitted this while I was in meetings. Yeah, teleconferences are great. Anyway, so that's my knitting finished objects. So you want to show your finished objects?
Yeah, I do not have any knitting fitted objects. Whatever.
You have some crochet though, don't
Yes,
you?
I do. I have crochet
Yeah.
finished, and I have a peg loom finished. Yay for me! So you can see the peg loom back here a little bit. I'm going to take it
pull
off.
that forward.
I am, and I thought I'm going to take it off now.
I mean, like, oh, now.
Yes, I'm going to take it off the loom now. I hope it doesn't take too long. If it takes too long, then I'm going to stop. But
Don't you have to just like pull these pins out?
yes, so this is the loom that I bought at
Today, folks,
the.
on the Drop Stitches podcast,
We will unhook the loom. I don't know what you say.
we will see whether or not this thing falls apart.
Yes, that's true. So I bought this
It's a very
loom
action-packed day.
at the New York Fiber Festival. So supposedly you just pull these things out. I don't know if y'all can see that, but I'm just going to lay it down. So one thing I like about this peg loom is I've seen other ones online where they have pegs all around it. And this has a bar going down the side. So this should be
It
so
does
much
look like it's
easier.
to pull off.
Sorry for the noise. So this is made by Primitive
Stuff.
Stuff.
I
Yeah.
think that's the company.
Yeah, I think it is.
I'm not sure they have a website, but they do go to the New York Fiber Festival,
Mhm.
and I think you can.
And that's where I found it, and that's where I bought it. So,
Yeah.
and then supposedly we can just pull it off. Oh, it is really easy because they're like finish nails on the top and on the bottom.
Yes, to get little bitty heads.
And as long as I wove it properly, as the instructions said, it should not fall apart.
it looks believable.
It does.
It's very Christmassy.
It is. And when I was doing it, I thought I'll do these light colors and then like this green and white here. I think you can see that. When you're really looking at it up close, you can see the green and white, but from a distance, it all looks white. Like you can probably see it looks all kind of whitish.
Yeah,
so the
so
next
these
time I make it, I will
Lighter
make it.
colors aren't
Yeah.
showing up very well. There is multiple colors here.
Yeah, the next one I make, it'll be more of a contrast, or I'll be more aware of how that.
It is easier
Turns
to
out.
see in person. She's got a couple of pictures on Ravelry already
Yeah.
for this.
Uh-oh.
It does look better in person.
I'm just going to stand up a little bit here. Oh, look at that. Oops, someone got kind of wrapped around that.
And this is all like old clothes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's old t-shirts. And, old t-shirts and my husband's old pajama pants.
Which look like they had faded a little bit in the wash.
Yeah. So I use that as the, what is this called? This is the warp. I used that, they were flannel, and I used that as the warp because I think that's a little not as stretchy. And then the pieces across are all the t-shirts. And they were all from my family, so.
Oh, wow. It's really dense.
It is. It is really nice. So my next one,
It certainly
I think this is the
feels like it's durable.
this has got more of those little things on it. So I'll turn
little
it over.
joints.
Yeah. Oh, now there's joints on this side too.
It is what it is.
Isn't that nice?
That is really awesome.
Yeah, but it's like all.
It looks like a braided rug,
Mm-hmm.
but you didn't have to sew the pieces together. That's always
Yeah.
the barrier for me with doing a braided rug. It's like you braid this great big long thing, and then you take a needle and thread and you sew braids in a round, in
Yeah.
a spiral. And I just think I don't know. It's certainly doable, but at the same time,
Yeah, just thought of it.
do not want.
Yeah, this was fun. It didn't actually take too long. It took less time than I thought it would take. And as you saw, it was on an easel. So my not the last craft group, but the one before it, I think, I brought this part of it in, to show the people in the craft group what we were doing or what I was doing. And Janet, who's in charge of it, she's like, "You should put it on an easel." I'm like, "That is such a good idea." And this is my son's easel, and I put it on there, and it is so much easier because this is kind of a medium size, I guess, for the pieces that I have. And it was kind of cumbersome to kind of twist it and turn it and try to get it to all work. And once I put it on the easel, it was just so easy because because you work from the top and the bottom. You work from the top a little bit and the bottom, so you're working together to meet in the middle.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And then, so by having it on here, I just worked up or down depending on which side I was working on at the time. And it was so much easier than trying to flip it and do all this other stuff, and that just worked great. And this is just like a metal,
Just a generic
portable,
easel, right?
easel from Michael's or something like that. So, and I got it on sale, so it wasn't, I don't know, $60 or something. I don't know how much they were, but it wasn't bad. We've had it for a few years. But so anyway, that's this finished product.
That's really awesome.
I'm just gonna drape it right there.
I think that was a win, that purchase.
Yeah, I think so too. That was really fun. And because it takes me so long to knit things, it was nice to actually be able to finish that.
It's good to have instant gratification.
Yeah. So this is my other finished product, which is there's a couple pictures up on Ravelry for this too.
Is there? I didn't see those.
Yeah, they're up there. You probably can't tell because it don't look so good. So this is the original that the lady Joyce in my craft group made, and this is just it's a cotton washcloth, and I just said that is the neatest thing. I'd love to do that because it would just be fun to make my own washcloths.
It just looks like a hexagon type blanket thing.
Yeah, it's really cute. It's really cute. And anyway, so I haven't crocheted since I was like really.
She uses these, doesn't she?
I used it.
You used it. I was like, this has been loved.
It has been used and washed a couple times. And anyway, what was I saying? Oh, I don't know. So anyway, I haven't crocheted in a long, long time, and the farthest I got was like a doily like this big.
I didn't even know you knew how to crochet.
Well, I can crochet a straight line really easy. But after that, I'm not too good. So anyway, so I looked on my crocheting books on trying to figure out what this was, and I couldn't. So these are my interpretations of this, which is not very close.
On the fly. Awesome.
So I was trying to imitate this, and I couldn't. But anyway, they turned out pretty good. This is a little...
Is this a progression?
Yeah, this is the first one I made, and it turned out kind of ruffly.
It's a sea slug.
And then what was the next one I made? I think this is the second one I made. I'm not really sure. I can't really remember now. And it's okay.
That one's the closest, I think.
And then this was the third one I made. And all of them are a little too holy, I guess. Maybe if I used it, no, they're just too holy.
You probably just need to tighten it up. Use a smaller needle, tighter gauge.
I guess maybe not make these holes
or
so bigger.
Smaller stitches.
Something. Anyway, but they turned out pretty good, so that was fun. And she's going to show me how to do this for real, so I can make some good ones. And so that after she shows me how to do that in a couple weeks, then I'll be making real ones that I can use all the time. So that was exciting. And that is it for my finished products.
Okay. I have a couple more finished objects, which I have this giant skein. And there are pictures of this on Ravelry. I showed this as a work in progress last time we met. And this is Gnome Spun Gotland. And it's a 3-ply. There's 2 plies of the same colorway of multicolor, and then 1 ply of straight up like burgundy red. And so it's a true 3-ply. And I thought I was going to get more yardage out of this. This skein is about 10.5 ounces. And then I have, a little skein here, which is a 2-ply of the leftovers. And there was even a little bit more after this that I plied back on itself. And with that much, I thought I was it looked like it was coming out as a fingering, and I thought I was gonna get, you know, like 1,000 yards, and it's only about 700. So I'm happy with the yarn. I think it looks nice and it has a nice heavy feel, like like a long wool should. I think Gotland is a long wool. It sure feels like one. Um, but I don't know. Maybe it's because it's kind of it was spun worsted. It was prepped worsted because it's a top, and it is a long wool, so it's dense. So maybe that's why it didn't go as far as I thought, or maybe it's thicker than I thought. But you know, even though it's only about 700 yards, I'm still happy with it. And I never had any plans for it, any specific plans, because I don't plan. When I bought it, I think I had some idea in mind for it, but that idea has long since been done away with, and I just spun it. Somewhere along the lines, decided it was going to be something else. Anyway, so I don't know how much is in the little skein, and yeah, and I only estimated my yardage anyway, so I might be a little bit off, but that's close enough. That's pretty sloppy. Anyway, and then I have another large skein. Oh, this was spun completely on my Hanson mini spinner, the standard flyer. And this is from the Deep Stash. This is from an alpaca merino roving that I got some years ago from North Star Alpacas, and run by the lovely Maple. I think Maple's a wonderful person, and from what little interactions I've had with her, I thought she was great. So I had about 6 ounces of this, and this is also a true 3-ply. The singles were spun on my Morning Street wheel and then plied on my Hanson Crafts because, of course, it has those giant bobbins. This is, I wanted to say it was like 375 yards or something like that, and it's about 6 ounces. So, it's probably also, they're probably both around a sport weight or so. And this has got a nice, it's probably not super soft, but it's soft. And it has a nice weight to it also from the alpaca. So, and there will be pictures of this on Ravelry as well, so you can have a good look at it if you want. That's all I have for finished objects. So why don't we just move on to works in progress then?
Yeah. You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a few works in progress. I'll start with my knitting one.
Sorry, I'm slamming my glass on the table. Bartender! Fill me up.
This is last time I'm pretty sure, well, shoot. I didn't get as far as I thought I did.
What happened?
I don't know. I think something came in the middle of the night and undid my knitting. I'm not really sure. But last time, I held up and said, this is what I'm going to do. And this is how far I've gotten, which is, I think, the same picture that's on Ravelry. So it's not very far.
To be fair, you did tell me that you started it and ripped it out several times.
Yeah, it was.
So you would have been further if you hadn't kept second guessing yourself.
I think it was. Well, I was doing it wrong, so
you were.
Yeah,
oh.
Yeah. I kept on adding a stitch or something in there, and I couldn't figure out. Well, first I
think
started
it does increase in size, right?
Yeah,
doesn't it go sideways so you increase as you go out?
Yeah,
but you still had the wrong stitch count.
Right, and when I first started it, I was doing the yarn over wrong because I thought it was.
I'm sorry. What is this? This is Magrathea.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it had what 7 new stitches I've never done before in there. So to give as an excuse, I guess I didn't. I read about a yarn over, and she said whenever you yarn over, you're going to do a knit stitch next. I think is what she said, right? And so I thought that meant yarn over, knit, and then do the next stitch on the pattern. So I kept on getting off these stitches, and I couldn't figure that out. So I had to keep on starting over. And then
probably what she meant is you're not going to do a yarn over and then another yarn over or something like that.
I don't know what she meant, but it just meant yarn over, which I guess everyone else knows. You just wrap the yarn, and then whatever the next stitch is, you do the next stitch, which always happens to be a knit stitch. So anyway, so this is how far I am, and I actually have not worked on this in a couple weeks.
Okay.
I did my loom and some other things, and mainly I kind of put it aside because I'm pretty sure I was doing, and I talked to Julie about this, but I was doing a stitch wrong, and it's not that far anyway, but I was doing one stitch wrong the entire time, and then I realized it for some reason on one row that I was doing it wrong, and so I'm just going to keep on going. I'm not going to rip it out again, but it's not very far, so I don't think anybody would ever notice it.
No, it'll be fine.
And the way I was doing it is not really, it's almost the same, but it's not quite exactly the same as what the pattern says to do, so I think it'll turn out fine. But I will get to it. I love the color of this yarn, and I think the pattern's really pretty. And but I had just put it aside.
It is an awesome yarn. By the way, my name is actually Julia, but for whatever reason, everyone in my family has always called me Julie, so don't get confused.
So that's one.
I don't really notice it.
Another one, I'll show you this big one next. This is, I'm doing this with my craft group, and you're going, oh yeah, that's a sweatshirt. Wow, that's really great.
She made a sweatshirt!
So right now it's already cut, and I cut it, cut the seam off of the sleeves because it was a rolled seam or whatever, you know, the way they stitch it in the factories. And so you just cut that completely off. And then you just cut straight down the side. And then there is a mark on the inside, which is the center of the front. So eventually that will be cut too. But right now it's not cut. And then
just like a pen mark.
Yeah, it's kind of like what did you call it? Redoing the sweatshirt with other materials. So what I'm going to be doing is sewing other materials on top of the sweatshirt to make it a new piece of clothing. So it'll be a jacket once it's done. And if
right, so this is just a shape template.
Yeah, this is just for,
you're not going to see any of this when you're done.
No, once this is done, it'll be all covered. Even the cuffs, everything will be covered. And if the cuffs, like, they're kind of like gathered right here, if they get in the way, the cuff will completely come off, and there'll be a new piece of fabric there.
New piece.
Yeah. Otherwise, it'll just be covered. And some of the fabrics I have so far, I don't know if I'm going to use these, but I love these fabrics because next week I'll be getting some different fabrics from one of the ladies in the craft group, and I may be using those instead to do this project with. But I want to show you what I have because I love these fabrics. They're really, well, two of them are really, really old fabrics. They're like my grandmother's age fabric, so I assume, I don't know, 60s or probably 70s based on the color of them. Anyway, let me get them. So this is one of them. This is one of the fabrics I'm thinking about using, and this is the other one, which I just think they're beautiful. I don't know what you guys think, but I just love it.
I think this is awesome because it's obnoxious.
And then
it's so loud. It's great.
Some of the contrasting, I just love this fabric too. And this is a really rich blue that I actually used to make my daughter's homecoming dress when she was in 9th grade. And but I just think it's a really beautiful color, and it looks really just amazing with that orange.
Basic color theory right there.
Yeah, I just love that.
Complementary colors.
Yeah, I just think that's really pretty. So anyway, so I don't know if I'll actually be using that, but I love these fabrics. And if I don't use it on the sweatshirt, I think what I'll be doing is making project bags with them.
If you do use it on the sweatshirt, you could go with that basic diagonal strips kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because this is a really I guess you want to call it a heavy corduroy. Yeah. I don't think y'all can see that, but it's just really heavy. So that's one. It's my second one. And then I have one more project down here. And this one's kind of exciting. I don't know. Something I decided to get back into.
Thing sticking out of it.
I know. My little thing sticking out there. So this is something that's been hanging in my children's bathroom since we
Oh,
bought.
that's good.
I
Dust
know.
coming off.
Well, it's not just that; it's dry rotted. This stuff's dry rotted. It keeps on. It's just like turning into
The
dust.
moisture, and it's like a natural fiber.
And it hangs in a south-facing window with
So it's-
no shade.
It's pretty cooked by now.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
completely dry rotted. It's starting to fall apart. And this is like one of those, I don't know, sailor's balls, or it's a really heavy glass ball. And then it just hangs with this jute twine, whatever it is. And so I have to redo it. So I'm going to be doing macrame. Does anybody know what that is?
Does everybody remember macrame?
Right. So I have two. I doubt I'll use the black because it's just so dark. But I have this black, which is like a polyester, I guess.
Or maybe a nylon.
Yeah, nylon. That's probably what it is. Nylon, cheap stuff. It was in our garage. And this also is just the same thing that's on there now, the cheap jute twine. So I'll use one of those. And then just to show you some of the things, I had some of these books already, and then I went on the internet and bought some more. So this is the project board I just bought.
Right, if anybody can tell us what this thing is supposed to do, that would be great.
But it was really cheap on Amazon, so I said, okay, I'll buy it. And so I bought it, and it's just...
It appears to be just a 1/2-inch thick piece of paperboard with some T-pins.
Yeah, it's basically what it is. So I've never used one before, but it was really cheap, so I thought I'll just get it and see if it helps me. But some of the books, I'll just spread them out right here. Is just the macrame, and some of them are pretty old.
This is old school.
This one's so old, it's like it's ready to. No, that's not the one.
I think this one's got great stuff on the cover.
Yeah, I think I left the one at home that was really, really old.
Some really fancy textural.
Yeah, that's a new.
things.
I think that's pretty new. A couple of these are really old.
The styling of it looks new.
And this one's pretty new too, I think. The new macrame. So I'm sure I'll get plenty of ideas out of here, which is just, I'm just doing basic things anyway. But of course that makes me want to make like a plant hanger and things like
All the
that.
things.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got instructions in here for those little knotted button things. I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys can see that. I have to say, just oops, my bad. Flipping through this book, I'm not sure I'm really impressed with the pictures. I mean, the
Instructions.
The
are
drawn
good.
instructions look great. But some of the pictures, like the background and
Yeah, they're too busy. It's like you can't
the
even
background
see it.
is almost the same color as the stuff that's
Yeah.
on it. So it's, I don't know, the contrast isn't great, but
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. The editor.
There's a lot of knotting patterns in here that are pretty awesome, and
Yeah.
looks like some larger projects.
I want to make one of the purses.
That's pretty awesome purse there.
Yeah. I think that would be so fun.
That is pretty cute.
Yeah.
I'd want to line it though, because there's pretty big holes.
Yeah, I'd line it too.
Oh,
All my stuff would
and
fall.
baskets and other bags and little shopping bags and blah blah blah, and a fancy doodad to put on the end of a tablecloth. Can you guys see that? Well, anyway, this book is called Macrame Pattern Book, Marchand Art Studio, supervised by the Japan Macrame Association. Oh wow.
I thought that was interesting.
And it is published. Where's the title page? Did I miss it?
That's it, isn't it? That's it.
There's no date.
Hmm.
Maybe it's in the back. It's in the back. Copyright 2011. So this is a new book.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some pretty awesome stuff in here. So if you're looking to get into macrame, I'd say that's got a lot going for it.
Yeah, it
And
does.
the others are the others all vintage?
Some of them are.
This one looks like
this
it's
one's
new.
not. Yeah, and I think this one is not too old. I don't think. This one's not too old.
The new macrame. This one looks like it's got jewelry and there's dog leash on the
Yeah,
back.
this is 2000. This is 2003.
bookmarks.
So I didn't think it was there.
A belt.
Yeah. This one's definitely old. And I have another one at home that I didn't bring with me, but this one's pretty old.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that, but there's some pretty hardcore jewelry pieces in there.
1971. is
fancy
the
art.
first printing,
Oh.
and that's about when Macrame was probably at its height. Was right in that.
Check out
right in that time
70s,
frame.
dude.
Some of the things in these things are like people actually wore this.
This is great. I wish you guys. I gotta get closer to the camera because you guys have gotta see this. This is pretty creepy.
Joe,
It is creepy,
you
dude, right?
right here, you gotta show this one. I just think
We got some dramatic chest hair action.
I think that's it. That's probably it. But
Oh, this is awesome.
I just look so sexy in my macrame.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Well, I guess if you're stoned, everything looks great.
That's it for me.
Right, moving on. All right, so my work's in progress. I still have on the needles these guys, my mitts that I showed last time. I actually got through knitting the second mitt, which I only have one of them in here right now, and then I decided that my first mitt was too tight. It was marginally tighter than the second one, and I didn't like it. So I'm knitting a third mitten. And I still haven't knitted a thumb on any of them, so. But I only just started the third mitten because I had to put them in timeout after I got mad. So they're not done yet. And I also have another bit of drama to share with you guys. I knitted an entire vest since we last met. I'm going to rip it out. So have a good look at it because this is the last time you're going to see it. The back of it, I think, looks great. And this is the Sequoia vest, which is, I think, a free pattern on Ravelry. And the yarn is from Solitude Wool, and it's a border Lusseter in an Aran weight, and it's really fantastic red color. And I really love the cable panel down the back. I don't know if you guys can see that terribly well, but there is a cable panel down the back, and it's got like a heavy shawl collar. It's on scrap yarn right now, but the collar would fold over, and it stretches a little bit once you have it on, so it's not as tiny as it looks. But and then the shawl collar folds over on itself like that. And, maybe you close it with a pin or something like that. And I've always liked this pattern. I've always wanted to do it. And I had this yarn. It seemed like the exact right amount. And it is the exact right amount for this vest. I don't like the vest. When I put it on, I think it's the wrong shape for me. It makes my shoulders look really narrow. So there's that problem with it. And the other problem with it is, it could be partly the way I knit it and not totally the pattern's fault. But this wide band of ribbing starts like right in the middle of my boobs. And I think that looks weird. And then also the bottom of the ribbing, which is the nature of ribbing, wants to curl up, right? And I don't like that either. So I paid a lot of money for this yarn, I love Solitude Wool. They have fantastic stuff, but they're not cheap. And this was really not cheap. I must love whatever I knit out of this yarn. So as much as I am not happy with the concept of ripping out, I'm going to have to rip it out, because if I don't get use out of this, I'm going to be unhappy. So that's the last of it. Going to die. I don't know what it's probably going to be another vest.
How can this start in the
but
middle of your boob? I don't understand that.
no,
goes around your
not
neck.
this. This, well, here. I need some music.
Which kind of music?
Spicy music.
I don't know any.
Oh, come on! I don't think it fits terribly well either. I'm really not terribly happy with it. So, if we do it the way it's supposed to be,
Yeah. Oh, I see. You mean the seam?
yes, where the ribbing starts,
Yeah.
it's like right over the boob.
Well, why?
And
that
this is
bad?
even worse because it like bubbles up. I don't like so it's hard to tell right now because
I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt that's a similar color to this, but if I wear something that's a different color, all you can see is this straight down here. And then if you look at the thing as a whole,
Yeah.
it makes my hips look wider and it makes my shoulders look really narrow. It throws me out of proportion.
Yeah, the shoulders need to come out like this.
Right. Or they need to be a lot narrower than they are.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Like a tank
I think they
top.
would look better wider.
Yeah, so I
Because then it would be wider here and it's wider here.
maybe even with a little cap sleeve
Oh, yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
But and then there's this action right here, which I can't do anything about.
Because it's not a lightweight yarn either.
It's
so
not
if
a
it's
lightweight.
thinner,
No.
to me, it wouldn't look right. It needs to be thicker because it's
And
a heavier weight yarn.
I think the cable
Yeah, that's really pretty.
my hair's all over it, but
Yeah.
the cable looks, I think, really nice in this yarn. A border Lessiter is a long wool. It's dense. It's going to hold shape really well.
So you don't think this will come out when you wash it? Because if you
No,
wash
I don't
it, then
think
you
I'm
can't
gonna
rip it out, right?
Well, I could, but
Let me see.
I don't think I'm going to be happy with it in the long term.
Yeah.
And I'm also not happy with putting a pin right here. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like an almost, but not quite.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I don't think I'm going to be terribly happy with it. So, but you notice I haven't ripped it out yet, and it isn't just because I wanted to share with you all my pain, but it's partly because I don't want to rip it out.
It's a lot of work to rip out.
It is. It's a couple of weeks worth of work because it is kind of a heavyweight yarn, so it's not as bad as it could be.
If it was my project, it would be a 5 to 6, maybe a year's worth of work.
Not necessarily. It is a heavyweight yarn. Anyway. What happened to my other sweater? There it is. I can't reach it. Okay. So, let's see. I'm also working on some spinning, which I didn't bring with me. But I did bring something to tell you about, which is, we've already talked about the flatter spray, right? In a previous episode, we talked about what we've used the flatter spray for and that we liked it. And it's basically a de-staticking kind of a thing. A scratch-free smoothing spray is what it says on the bottle. And this is by Soak, which is a Canadian company. And at the time, I think we said, like, you had sprayed it on a acrylic sweater or something that was prone to static, and I had sprayed it on a coat which was prone to heavy static, and that worked out great. And that I had also used it in like a spray starch, so like on some quilter's cotton when I was gonna iron it, and all of those things worked out well. So recently I've been I was given a Surrey alpaca fleece. From my vet has a few Surrey alpacas, and I've worked with other alpaca before, but not, at least not from the raw. I haven't worked with Surrey before. And the different breeds of alpaca are, I think the one is Oaxaca, and those are the ones that look like teddy bears, right? They have that hair that kind of sticks out straight and it's just fuzzy. That's pretty easy stuff to work with, quite frankly. It's easy to wash, and it's easy to comb or card if you prefer. And if it gets a little staticky, you just spray a little water on it and go. No problem. This is my first experience working with Surrey from the raw, and it's hard to wash, and it's hard to comb, because, well, let me give you a visual. If you were to take 4 cats and rub them vigorously on the carpet for 10 minutes, that's about how much static electricity that, a couple of locks of Surrey alpaca wants to have as soon as you touch it with a comb. It's like, it lays there all nice and calm, and as soon as you put a comb near it, it's like, and nothing I could do was fixing this. So, I mean, I tried water. I even got really desperate and I put baby oil on it. It was still staticky. Yeah, I don't think baby wool works anyway.
You know, it apparently it works well with wool, but wool is a completely different fiber. Well, not completely different; it's still hair, but you know, its behavior is quite different. Um, and you know, I've never seen anything like it. I would lash it on the combs and pull the other comb through it, and as soon as the other comb was through it, that fiber would bend back on itself.
Wow.
Yeah, totally. So it was like I couldn't get it off the combs. Once I got it on the combs, it was a complete loss. Um, I didn't know what to do, and then this was sitting there quietly ignoring me, and I grabbed it and I spritzed the fiber with it just a couple of times. Not a lot, just a little bit. And then the fiber was fine. No static at all.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and you know, I've since then I've also heard people talk about mixing conditioner and water. So I haven't tried that, so I don't know if that works better or worse or what. Um, but I had tried this just because it was sitting there right on the table, and it works great. So this is the flatter spray by Supposed Soap. And the other thing I'm working on spinning is some baby doll fiber, which we'll get to in a minute when we do some shameless self promotion. But let's see. All right, from here on out, it's going to get pretty random. Not that it hasn't been already today. So if you don't want to stick around, that's fine. So what I have to share, the reason I say it's going to be pretty random is that I brought some weird ferns. Really weird ferns. So both of these are epiphytic ferns. For those of you who aren't aware, I do grow a lot of weird plants. A lot of them are orchids, but I do grow a lot of things that aren't orchids too. And these aren't orchids, obviously, they're ferns. They are, like I said, they're epiphytic ferns, endemic to, this one's endemic to Taiwan, and this one also China, but I don't know where in China. It may also be Taiwan or other mainland places. And epiphyte just means it grows on a tree, like Spanish moss. Have you ever seen Spanish moss? It does not mean that they're parasites, because they're not.
So it doesn't kill the tree? It just grows on it?
No, just like orchids, it's a perch. You can think of it that way. It's a perch.
Like a bird nest.
Yes. And it tends to be, you know, these being ferns, they tend to grow in places where there's going to be frequent rainfall, and also where there's going to be, you know, lots of stuff collected on the branches, and they'll just, you know, ramble in and out between that. But because they are endemic to Taiwan, China, they're slightly cold hardy. I think. So let's look at this guy first. This is Pyrosa lingua. And you can see it has some pretty funky fronds. There's a lot of varieties that you can get like this, of this species, in garden centers that don't have the little fingers, and it's just like a straight thing. And they're hardy. They're hardy at least to zone 7. I don't know if they're hardy any further than that, but that basically means they can handle below freezing.
So I could like plant them outside in my yard.
Yes.
Are they allowed to be planted? Like, I'm thinking of kudzu, you know. Are we allowed to plant those things outside, or is it something that they don't?
To my knowledge, it is not a protected species. I got this from an orchid grower who had them in his greenhouse.
So they don't have like, oh, don't plant this outside because it'll turn into kudzu and we'll never get rid of it.
No, and actually, when I looked up Pyrosa lingua, now this variety, this is an unusual variety, hence the little fingers. Like I said, most varieties you see in garden centers will not have these little fingers. It'll just be like a strip. So this variety is lancerata.
This is much more interesting than a straight one anyway.
It is, but that other variety you can also get in a variegated form. And I've seen that for sale at Plant Delights Nursery, which is located like in North Carolina, I want to say. And they're in Zone 7. So they have several varieties of the species, so it can't be I doubt that it's restricted.
Is it a shade?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. I don't know, because it's an epiphyte, I don't know how it does planted in the ground, but I'm sure that's how they grow it. But it might depend on what kind
But
of
it can be
soil
grown
you
in
have.
like a planter?
Yeah, it could obviously be grown in a planter, and if probably what I will do with them is they will live outside in the summer and go into my unheated basement during the winter where it's cool, but I have lots and lots of space, right? So I don't have to use my sought after space, yeah, living space that I keep all my more tender plants.
I like that. I might get some of that because
Um,
my entire front yard is north, kind of north facing, so it's basically shade all the time. I mean, it gets a little tiny bit of sun because it's not really north facing. It's almost north facing, and so I can't grow. There's lots of things I can't grow.
You could certainly give it a try. I mean,
Yeah,
this one wasn't cheap because it's an unusual variety, but the ones that they have at Plant Delights are like
I want this one.
like the ones they have at Plant Delights are like $13 or $18. I think the variegated forms cost a little more.
That one's interesting. That's interesting.
It
to
is.
have.
It's pretty awesome. I used to years ago. I had a love affair with ferns, and then I quit growing them for a while, and it's back in full force this year. I've bought like 10 ferns this spring already. It's not even spring yet. And this variety is Pyrosa polydactylus, most likely because it has it looks like a hand. Um, I don't actually know terribly much about this. To be honest, I know it's an epiphytic fern, and I know it comes from China, and I know the U.S. Botanical Gardens has one. I didn't get it from them, obviously. I got it from an orchid nursery that's located north of Baltimore, but it is it's not an orchid; it's a fern. That's pretty much all I know about it. Because it's native to China, it will also have some cold tolerance. I don't know that this one can take below freezing. But anyway, I wanted to share these with you because I'm really excited about my new plants, and I've got horrible spring fever, and I thought they were awesome. So
They are awesome.
and I'm gonna fall off my chair trying to lean over and put them down. Okay.
We won't see it. You're off camera.
Whee! The last thing I have to share, this is my same shameless self-promotion. Whee! Okay. So this is something of a preview too. We next month we're hoping to take a field trip.
A giveaway this time.
No.
Okay.
Friends of mine raise baby doll sheep. And, they're totally into their sheep, but they don't want to deal with the wool. So it's my job to deal with the wool. So some of you probably already are aware that I sell baby doll wool on Etsy. And that's what this is. But this is a little different from what I usually do in that normally what I do, baby doll sheep are pretty small and they're a down breed sheep, which means that well, for baby dolls at least, you can't even see this. I've got a fiber in my hand. Baby doll fiber is really fine. Fine like merino is fine. But it's not classed as a fine wool. It's classed as a down wool. And basically what that means is that when you look at a merino fiber, you see a very even crimp in the fiber, and the lock structure, like Jennifer has locks, see, that's a lock structure. Actually, you have down fiber. The locks, every fiber in the lock is the same. Down fiber is actually a lot like your hair in that it's fine, but it doesn't have a really regular crimp, that each turn in the curl goes a different direction. So it almost spirals, but not quite, because it's not constantly like this. But what that results in is a really cushy fiber. Like, this isn't very much fiber. If you've ever ordered fiber from me or anyone else who sells baby doll fiber, you'll notice that when you order 4 ounces of fiber, it comes in an envelope like this. And normally 4 ounces of fiber, like, fits in this much space. And it's just because baby doll fiber is always going to be bouncy. So it's pretty exciting. But they're small sheep. And so what I normally do, pardon me, I'm like picking things out of it. What I normally do is take fleeces from a few sheep that have, similar color or texture, and that becomes a roving run. So you get kind of an average. But, a lot of people don't get a chance to see what individuals are like. So if you don't buy fleeces, or you haven't bought a few different fleeces of the same breed, you don't get a sense of what the variety is within that breed. And so what I wanted to do was give people that opportunity. And so I saved up fleeces over a couple of years for a couple of the kind of the select critters in the flock, and did small roving runs, and just so I had enough of individual animals. And so you get a chance to see how they vary from animal to animal. And what we have here is, this is Daisy. I have cheat sheets. This is Sprinkles. This is Sadie, Hallie, and Hallie's really unusual because she's brown, which is pretty unusual for baby dolls to actually be that color. They're usually some shade of gray or white. And then this is Libby. And
Libby's like a brown and gray.
Libby's like a rose gray, but I think that's more from like the weathering at the tips. Has because the base of her fiber is a gray. So, but the end result looks like rose gray. But Hallie is more like brown all the way through.
She's brown.
It's brown. Yeah, it really does look like a special dark bar. So I was hoping that you would like stick your hands in here and make comments about how if you can see how they vary. And you might do a little bit of this.
This one's pretty. I mean, this one to me is lighter than this one's more dense. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that's exactly it.
And this one's real springy too.
Yes. So
ooh, this one's soft and springy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So that's Libby.
And so is this one. This one's soft and springy too.
Yeah. So
I think Libby's the softest.
They're all going to be somewhat springy, and they're all going to be reasonably soft.
Wow.
But the amount of each is going to vary.
This feels like a cotton ball. It even looks like one.
It looks like a cotton ball. And this kind of does too, but it's dense, but at the same time, it's cushy.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff.
This is like a foam something or other.
Yeah. Yeah,
this
exactly.
Is a foam something.
So what I'm planning to do is sell like a sampler set with these guys. I don't have a lot of these runs, but I have enough to do several sampler sets where you would get like an ounce of each, and you can try them out.
This one's so heavy.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Now, how old are, like, age-wise, is this, like, the youngest one there? Is that why it's so soft?
No, actually, Hallie's the youngest, I think.
Really? Huh. This is the best one. I have to say this is the best one.
We can ask when we have our field trip.
Yeah.
So I don't think I finished saying that. We're going to try to have a field trip next month to go see the sheep get sheared. And with any luck, we'll have some usable footage to share with you of the sheep getting sheared and what they look like before and after. Baby dolls are small sheep, but they're not delicate at all because they're, it's like a meat breed essentially.
Does that mean they're fat?
Yeah, they're kind of fat. they're
like my cat.
They're dense. Anyway, so they're very different, and you get a very different experience. Not different, like the difference between like spinning Border Lesser and spinning Merino. It's not that different, but there's small variations within each of them, and you can see, just because maybe you don't like this one, but you might like this one. So it gives you a sense that
That's
what's
interesting.
different within the breed, and that you shouldn't write off the breed just because you didn't like this or you didn't like this, and because you might like all the others. So plus they're all different colors, so you can probably put them together into one color book project.
That's
So the
interesting.
Libby is what I've been spinning recently, and it's interesting to hear you say it's soft because it is, and it also spins really fine, really easily, which is actually something I have trouble with some baby dolls, that it's so determined to be puffy, even though I think I'm spinning fine by the time I take it off the tension of the bobbin and off the nitty knotty, it goes and returns to the shape it wants to be, which makes it a little thicker than I really thought it was going to be. But on the upside, when you have yarn like that, when you have fiber like that, you can't crush it. You can knit socks out of that stuff and it will forever be squishy socks.
And squishy socks are the best.
They are.
They are.
That's how socks should be.
Yeah. I agree.
All right. So that's a lot of blah, blah, blah. Do we have anything else for today?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think that's it. All right.
Well, I hope you found that interesting. And join our Ravelry group. We'd love to have you. Come tell us what you're crafting and what you're drinking. Bye.
Bye.